because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength.
As his time in the White House drew to a close, Donald Trump exerted every effort to remain in power. His final weeks in office brought numerous baseless lawsuits, controversial presidential pardons, and pleas to state officials and the Supreme Court to overturn the election results. But Trump's presidential legacy will be marked in history by a violent attack on the U.S. Capitol and a second impeachment.
This is just a remarkable scene. The Capitol steps overrun by those Trump supporters there. Shots fired inside the Capitol.
Calls are continuing to grow from Republicans and Democrats saying the president has got to stop this.
The complete manifestation of what's been brewing for the last 5 years. That's what we saw up on the Capitol.
From the moment he lost the election and for the first time in his presidency, Donald Trump shied away from the public eye.
Perhaps the clearest sign that the president is unhappy is how quiet he has been. It's almost an eerie silence in terms of public events coming from this president. But behind the scenes, he's been raging, he's been plotting, he's been ousting people, he's been settling scores.
Amid a worldwide pandemic and one of the deadliest times in American history, President Trump's focus remained on the election results.
They can't get the president engaged on the topic unless it relates to himself. It is killing him that he's going to go down in history as the thing he hates most, a loser.
Well, we're going to have to see who the next administration is because we won.
As state after state certified Biden's victory over Trump, the president's campaign filed lawsuits across the country.
Almost all of them were rejected almost immediately. The president and his legal team had multiple opportunities in almost every state that they contested to show evidence, to bring forward anything that would back up the outlandish, wild conspiracy theory-laden claims that they were making, and they failed to do so.
2 weeks before President-elect Biden's inauguration, Trump asked Georgia's Republican Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger to, quote, find 11,000 votes to change the outcome there.
I only need 11,000 votes. Fellas, I need 11,000 votes. Give me a break. You know what they did and you're not reporting it. That's a criminal offense.
Well, Mr. President, the challenge that you have is the data you have is wrong.
The president's last-ditch effort to overturn the election materialized on January 6th, when Congress met to certify the electoral votes in a joint session on Capitol Hill. In the days and weeks leading up to the certification, Trump pressured Vice President Mike Pence to undo the will of the people and reject the electoral vote.
And I hope Mike Pence comes through for us, I have to tell you. I hope that our great Vice President comes through for us. He's a great guy. Of course, if he doesn't come through, I won't like him quite as much.
You saw what President Trump did in Twitter pressuring the vice president. You saw what he said on the stage on that Wednesday rally before the riots, that he'd be very angry and disappointed he was hearing some not good things. That's where this turned.
On the day of the certification, thousands gathered in Washington, D.C. to hear the president and his allies speak.
So, let's have trial by combat.
These people are not going to take it any longer. They're not going to take it any longer. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
The president repeated the false claim that the election was stolen from him and rallied his supporters to stop the steal by marching on the Capitol.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol.
As Congress began the largely ceremonial joint session, rioters made their way through police barricades and into the Capitol building.
The visceral hatred, it was like the blister that finally just popped. It was everything that we all should have known would eventually burst.
The next day, in a marked change of tone, the president released a video condemning the violence and seemingly conceding.
A new administration will be inaugurated on January 20th. My focus now turns to ensuring a smooth, orderly, and seamless transition of power.
Broken glass is still over the Capitol. People are frightened, terrified. You had folks hiding in their offices on Capitol Hill or running through the streets just to get away from the violence that was ensuing. He then, in that video, accepts peaceful transfer of power and new administrations coming. Too little, too late.
In the days following the attack on the Capitol, Vice President Mike Pence rejected calls to invoke the 25th Amendment and effectively begin the process of removing Trump from power. House Democrats then introduced an article of impeachment against the president for inciting an insurrection.
No president has acted like this. No president has faced charges like this. No president has confronted a second impeachment.
On January 13th, 1 week before the end of his term and Joe Biden's inauguration, Donald Trump became the first U.S. president to be impeached for a second time.
Adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.